Hi guys, I'm live. How you guys doing? I just wanted to sit live for a rant. Um, I just have some things in my mind I want to say about things I'm thinking about, such as a physicist proved that there's actually 11 dimensions in this universe. We only experience 4, which is 3 dimensions of space plus time. There's 7 unexplored dimensions, at least mostly unexplored by humans, that actually exist. It's funny that 7 and 11 not only rhyme, but that's the name of the store, 7-Eleven. It's also funny that 11 divided by 7 is approximately equal to pi over 2. Very close. It's like, not that far off. I wonder if that's a coincidence or something. 11 divided by, pi over 2. And I was just thinking as well, that there's 11 intervals in music because there's 12 notes in the chromatic scale, but there's only 11 intervals. The 13th interval, the 12th interval would be an octave, which is not really an interval because it's the same note, or the unison, which is also not an octave because it's only one note. So there's 11 intervals in music, and Joe Satriani did an album called Dreaming Number 11, but he has a theory, Joe does, that a person can only keep track of in their head of 11 notes at a time. In other words, if you throw 12 different notes at a person, they can't hold it all in their head. They can't think of it all at once. But a person can think of up to 11 tones, cognizantly. And that's interesting because it's all but one of this chromatic scale. You can play all but one note, and everyone will be able to pick up on it. But if you play all 12, you're out to lunch. Get out of here. But what's also interesting about that is that a modulation of up or down a major third is exactly gives you 11 notes if you're playing 7-note scales. If you're playing natural scales, for instance, if you play C major and E major, you're playing every note except D flat. It's the only note you're not playing. If you play C major and E major, which are off by a major third, you play 11 notes all except D flat. So that's as far as you can go with your modulations and have people really get everything included in them. If you go up a whole half step or down a half step, you get all 12 notes. Or if you go up a tritone, you get all 12 notes also. If you're playing 7-note unaltered scales. For instance, if you play C major and F sharp major, that's all 12 notes. If you play C major and D flat major, that's all 12 notes. And if you play C major and B major, that's all 12 notes. So you can only stray as far as a major third in a context where everybody's supposed to get everything and that you play at the same time. I think that's interesting, Also about the chromatic scale and the circle of fifths, I want to add something. Start with the chromatic scale. There's only the fifth and the fourth, the perfect fifth and the perfect fourth, which are 7 half steps and 5 half steps, whichever way you look at it, are the only 2 intervals that are not symmetrical around the chromatic scale. The half step divides the interval equally into 12 steps. That's why it's called 12-tone chromatic scale. A whole step, which is 2 half steps, divides the octave into 6 whole tones. So there's 6 whole tones. Hence, there's 2 whole tone scales, because if you have one whole tone scale, there's only one other one. There is only 2 unique whole tone scales, like there's only 1 unique chromatic scale, because each chromatic scale has all the notes. Then 3 half steps is a minor third. That divides the octaves into 4 parts, and there's only 3 of those because 4 times 3 is 12. Then 4 half steps is a major third, which divides the octave into 3 steps, and there's only 4 of those because 3 times 4 is 12. And then the tritone is 6 half steps, and there's 2 of those. There's only 6 of those because it divides the octave into 2 equal parts. What did I leave out? Plus the major seventh is just an inversion of the minor second, and so that would be just half step down instead of half step up if it's a major seventh up, and minor seventh is just a whole tone down. Major 6 is just a minor third down. Minor 6 is just a major third down. And the tritone is the same up or down. So the only thing that which is 7 half steps and 5 half steps. And interestingly enough, if you put those in a circle, you get the circle of fifths. But notice the circle of fifths does not break up. The fifth is not symmetrical. The circle of fifths is jagged. It doesn't complete itself in one octave no matter what you do. Unless you play it up a fourth, down a fourth. Up a fourth, down a fifth, up a fourth, down a fifth, up a fourth, down a fifth. But even then, if you do that in one octave, you're actually changing the interval, so it doesn't count as symmetrical with about one interval. In other words, if you want to be fair, you have to put up fourth, up fourth, up fourth, up fourth. You can't go up fourth, down fifth. That's not the same interval, you know. So if you play up a fifth, up a fifth, up a fifth, up a fifth, you'll get 12 steps of that because there are 12 fifths in a whole circle of fifths. But they don't cover one octave, so it's not considered symmetrical. They're not considered symmetrical within the octave. And so what's also interesting about that to me, these two intervals, the fourth and the fifth, that are the only non-symmetrical intervals in music, are also the most consonant intervals. We like the sound of fourths and fifths. We think they're beautiful. They're the simplest ratio. 3-2 is the simplest ratio other than the octave, which is just the same note, or the unison, which is just really the same note. You know, the first interval that contains two separate notes is the fifth, and that's the ratio of frequencies 3-2, which is the perfect fifth. At least the 3-2 is the perfect interval for it. And in equal temperament, we have to approximate that. Where actually if you can catch this one, a perfect fifth would be the ratio of 2 to the 7/12 power, because it's 2 to the 1/12 times 7, because it's 7 half steps, and 2 to the 12th power is 1 half step. So a perfect fifth in equal temperament would be 2 to the 7/12 power, and then a perfect fourth would be 2 to the 5/12 power. Both of those considered ticking up, going upward. If they go downward, you probably have to do the inverse of that. So you'd have to say, actually you could say it like that. You could say down a fifth would be 2 to the minus 7/12 power, and down a fourth would be 2 to the minus 5/12 power. But that's really weird, and you don't really get much for doing all that math, because it's just all you get out of that minus sign is going the other direction, which is easier to say just the opposite interval going up. For instance, 2 to the 7/12, 2 to the negative 7/12 is 2 to the 5 is 2 to the positive 5/7/12. So why bother with the negative? And 2 to the negative 7/12 is 2 to the positive 5/12. So why bother with the negative there too? You could always put a minus sign, because when you want to go down, you have to you do the reciprocal of the interval. For instance, 3/2 is a perfect fifth, but 2/3 is a perfect fourth, but not going up, but going down, because 2/3 is going the wrong direction for it to be up. 2/3 would be going down because I think because the bottom number is greater than the top number. So you would say 2/3, an octave up would be 4/3, which is a perfect fourth. Therefore, 2/3 is a perfect fourth down, minus an perfect fourth minus an octave, I think. Yeah. Wait, does that work? Wait, 4/3. Yes, it does. Because 4/3 is So 4/3 is a perfect fourth up. 2/3 is a perfect fourth down, because I inverted the perfect fifth, which is 3/2, to 2/3, and said that the inversion of that would be a perfect fourth, but it turns out it's down an octave. It's perfect fourth below. It's a perfect fourth. Let me think. It's a perfect fourth. 2 of 3. It would be a fifth down, because that's a perfect fourth up inverted. Okay, I get it now. 3/2 is a fifth up. 2/3 is a fifth down. The way to check that is, if 2/3 is a fifth down, go up an octave, you should get a fourth. And sure enough, 2 over 3 up an octave is 2 over 3 times 2 over 1, which is 4 over 3, which is the perfect fourth. And sure enough, that's correct. So you can, when you reciprocate an interval, you get the same thing going down. Is what I'm trying to say. But that's a lot of trouble just to say we went down when you can just go up by the relative, related interval going up going up instead of the inverted the version of that interval going up instead of the interval going down. So if it's going down, is a fourth going up, and a fourth going down is a fifth going up. So you know what I'm saying. So anyway, anything else I'm thinking? So I'm studying this book. I'm just about starting to read it about infernal geometry, the left-hand path, and has to do with the pentagram and all that. I'm really fascinated by it. The pentagram is actually a very fascinating. I've drawn it a couple times on my videos, but I want to go on about it right now, even though I don't have a pen and board to draw it out for you. Just draw a pentagram out if you can, put a circle around it, make it right side up if that's what you like. It doesn't matter. The direction still makes it a pentagram. You can put it to the left or right as well. There's actually 4 golden ratios in the pentagram, if you look at it a certain way. I'll have to do it on the board one of these days. But if you draw it, there's a line that's the length of the one part over the other part is equal to the whole of that divided by the longest part. So that's one whole. That's 2 golden ratios within that segment. Then there's a greater segment where the greater part of that to the lesser part of that is equal to the whole of that to the divided by the greater one in that, which is a whole nother 2 golden ratios, all found within the pentagram. If you draw a 5-pointed star and put a circle around it, you get 4 different golden ratios mapped out by the segments that you make when you cross, when you make the star, the 5 lines that make the star and the way they cross each other. Anyway, love you guys, peace, love, and rock and roll.